There are moments when you wish you just stayed silent. One careless remark, a knee-jerk reaction, and the fallout isn't just awkwardness. It can cost you more than you realize: trust, relationships, even rare opportunities that may not come again. In today's world, where everyone seems to be racing to be heard, intentional silence has become a rare and underrated kind of power. But here's the truth: knowing when to hold your tongue and when to make your words truly count takes more than just willpower. It takes deep self-mastery, the kind that is cultivated over time. That's why Stoic philosophy has endured for thousands of years. It's not a soft escape for those who avoid confrontation, but rather a practical compass for those who want to stay grounded amid chaos and live with discipline, strength, and depth. Stoicism teaches you something modern life often forgets: how to manage your emotions. Focus only on what you can control, and perhaps most importantly, how to discern when to speak and when to stay silent. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "Why did I say that?" or felt your own words turn into regrets, then this message is for you. Keep watching or reading, because by the end, you'll have 7 practical tools to turn your voice into an asset, not a burden. Number 1. Listen more, speak less. Have you ever been in a conversation where, just as you were about to share something personal, the other person jumped in with a loud, "Oh yeah, I know that already"? Or worse, maybe you opened up, only to be met with a distracted chuckle as they turned the conversation back to themselves. It's frustrating, right? In today's noise-heavy culture, speaking has become far easier than listening. Scroll through social media and you'll see it instantly. Millions of voices shouting, "Listen to me," while very few are genuinely willing to be silent and hear someone else. In Stoic thinking, listening isn't a passive act, it's a conscious decision and a powerful sign of strength. It reveals a mind that can resist the urge to perform, to interrupt, or to dominate the space. Instead, it waits patiently and speaks only when it matters. Think of a seasoned swordsman. They don't swing their blade carelessly. They wait. They watch. And when the moment is right, they act. The wise don't use words just to fill silence. They use silence as a tool to observe, to absorb, and to understand others on a deeper level. Let me tell you a story that brings this to life. Dave is a rideshare driver in Manhattan. He's quiet, not the kind to make small talk unless someone invites it. One ordinary morning, a woman gets into his car. She looks exhausted. Her eyes are red, distant. Without saying much, Dave offers her a gentle, "Good morning," places a water bottle in the cue folder, turns off the radio, and begins to drive. Every so often, he checks the rearview mirror, not to intrude, but as if to silently ask, "Are you okay?" The ride continues in near total silence for 40 minutes. No forced conversation. No awkward filler. Just presence. When they arrive, the woman steps out quietly, but leaves behind a small folded note. "I just lost my father. Thank you for letting me sit in silence. This ride was the kindest thing I've experienced all week." Dave didn't say a single word beyond that gentle greeting, yet somehow, he communicated exactly what needed to be heard. "I'm here, and I understand." Listening isn't simply staying quiet while someone else talks. It's an active, intentional choice. Sometimes it means asking a thoughtful follow-up, "Do you mean?" Other times, it means honoring their silence and resisting the urge to fill every gap with your own noise. Great listeners don't jump in with advice or try to fix things. They don't pretend to understand, they ask. They observe. They don't rush to judgment or conclusions, they wait. In meetings, they're often the quietest person in the room, yet somehow, they grasp the mood of the room better than anyone else. In relationships, They're the ones everyone turns to when it really matters. A great salesperson doesn't just deliver a perfect pitch. They ask the right questions, the ones that reveal true needs. A great doctor doesn't only prescribe medication. They listen for the fear and uncertainty behind the symptoms. And a great friend? It's not the one who always has the answers, but the one who can sit beside you in silence and make you feel less alone. Sometimes it's not about saying the right thing, it's about simply being there. Here's a simple, practical way to sharpen your listening skills this week. In every conversation, count how many questions you ask compared to how many opinions you share. If you're asking twice as much as you're speaking, you're heading in the right direction. This isn't about staying quiet all the time. It's about being intentional. Try allowing the other person to speak 70% of the time. You'll notice something powerful. When people feel truly heard, they stop trying to prove themselves. More you listen, the more you'll discover most people don't need solutions. They don't need to be fixed. What they crave is to feel understood, to be seen without judgment. And here's something else to prepare for. As your listening improves, you'll find yourself speaking less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer feel the need to fill every silence. Because once you understand the full picture, there's no need to guess. Once you've seen what truly matters, you stop battling over things that don't. The most influential people, the ones whose words carry real weight, are rarely the loudest in the room. They simply say what matters, and only when it's time. What's truly surprising is this. In those rare, quiet moments when you're fully present and truly listening to someone else, you begin to hear your own mind more clearly. You start noticing your inner habits, the impatience bubbling beneath the surface, the temptation to interrupt, the little voice planning your next sentence. Wait till I tell you my story, ... double quotes, becoming aware of that habit. That's the beginning of real transformation. You no longer need to win the conversation. You just want to connect. Epictetus once reminded us, nature gave us one tongue and two ears, so that we could hear twice as much as we speak. Nature doesn't make mistakes. That ratio itself is a lesson, a guide we often forget. The real question is, are you living it in reverse? Because when you begin to tame your words by mastering your ability to listen, you'll realize the real battle isn't with your mouth, it's with your mind. What often drives us to speak too quickly or say the wrong thing isn't a lack of knowledge. It's emotion, raw, fast rising, and unfiltered. So how do you manage the inner storm before it spills into your speech? What if emotion is the hidden manipulator behind nearly every conflict, every misunderstanding? Number 2, control your emotions. There's a truth many people only face after the damage is done, after a friendship cracks, a relationship turns cold, or a moment is lost forever. Words are never entirely harmless. They're like arrows. Once you release them, you can't call them back. And the harshest truth? Most of these verbal arrows are not fired by reason, but by emotion. We get angry, or feel hurt, or scared, and we speak without thinking. Just a few seconds of unchecked emotion can destroy something beautiful that took years to build. A bond, a reputation, a moment of trust. That's why learning to manage your emotions before you speak isn't a luxury. It's a survival skill in today's fast, reactive world. Stoicism doesn't ask you to stay silent forever. It doesn't demand that you bottle things up. What it asks is simple but powerful. Stay conscious before you speak. It teaches that true freedom doesn't come from saying whatever crosses your mind, but from having the strength to hold back when it matters most. That kind of control doesn't come easy, and it doesn't come fast. But when it does come, it changes everything. Have you ever been so furious that you wanted to lash out? To insult someone just to make them feel your pain? And then, minutes later, been filled with regret for every word. Or maybe you let a secret slip, not because you meant harm, but because your pride demanded the last word, and that slip? It cost someone's trust. Good. These moments aren't rare. They happen every day at home, in meetings, and even in the anonymous corners of social media. A single sentence, typed in anger or spoken too soon, can become a wildfire. Let me tell you a story. And you should really listen, because it shows just how easily emotion can seize control of not only your words, but your entire life. John, a longtime manager at a tech company in Chicago, was known for his calm, steady leadership. His team respected him, and colleagues admired his composure. But one day, during a high-pressure meeting, everything changed. His boss sharply criticized him in front of the entire team, cutting, public, and unfiltered. Something inside John cracked. He snapped. He raised his voice, interrupted, accused his boss of being unfair, claimed the team didn't respect leadership anymore. The room froze silent, tense, like the moment before a storm breaks. That same afternoon, John was quietly removed from his managerial position. The painful irony? John wasn't wrong to feel upset. His emotions were valid. But he lost, not because of what he felt, but because of how he reacted. Had he taken just 3 seconds, a single deep breath, things might have turned out entirely different. And that's exactly the shift Stoicism urges us to practice every day. Pause before you speak. Breathe before you react. A deep breath might feel small, but it can be the solid wall between a wise response and a reckless outburst. In fact, it's one of the most powerful tools we have. Stoicism teaches, don't speak when you're angry. Don't try to explain when you're hurt. Don't respond when your mind is still caught in the storm. Why? Because in those moments, your emotions are louder than your reason, and they're driving the wheel. Modern neuroscience actually supports what the Stoics knew long before brain scans existed. When your emotions spike, the amygdala, the brain's emotional control center, takes over. It hijacks your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning, judgment, and clarity. So when you're furious, when you're offended, when your pride is stung, you're quite literally less intelligent. In that moment, what you say doesn't come from your true self. It comes from a surge of emotion. And the real question is, are you okay with letting your anger speak on your behalf? What's strange is that emotional control doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It's not suppression. It's actually the art of transformation. Instead of being ruled by emotions, you learn how to reshape them. One of the most effective techniques is this: label your emotions precisely. Don't just say, I'm mad. Get specific. Say, I feel disrespected, or I feel powerless. That small act activates the rational part of your brain. It creates just enough space to stop the emotional wave from taking over. There's another technique, rooted in behavioral psychology. If you feel like exploding, don't. Sit down, pick up a pen, and write. Write everything you want to say, but don't send it. Write it by hand. The physical act of forming each word forces your brain to shift gears from raw emotion to structured language. Often within minutes, the urge to lash out disappears completely. Abraham Lincoln used this method. When he was angry at someone, he'd write a brutal letter, a letter of venting. He never sent it. He just folded it up and stored it in a drawer. It wasn't meant for the world. It was meant for him to regain clarity. That's one reason Lincoln was known for his almost unshakable calm, even in the heat of political chaos. Can do the same. You can choose an anchor, a small personal signal, to help reset your emotional state. It could be touching your wrist, clenching your palm, or exhaling slowly through your mouth. Tiny action, big impact. It's your brain's subtle signal, its way of saying, pause, take control. These aren't random tricks or abstract ideas. They're your shield guarding your dignity, preserving your peace, and keeping you grounded when the world pushes you to react. Learning to control your words isn't about silencing yourself forever. It's about understanding the right moment to speak, choosing your words with care, and delivering them with intention. Because sometimes, the greatest strength isn't in what we say, but in what we choose not to say. Have you ever found yourself in a moment where your emotions took over, and you said something that lingered with regret long after? If so, you're not alone. And sharing that moment, even briefly, can help us all grow. Not to dwell on guilt, but to learn, to reflect, to move forward with more calm, more clarity, and more purpose in how we communicate. Feel free to share it in the comments, not as a confession, but as a contribution. We grow stronger not by hiding our struggles, but by using them to teach each other how to live and speak with more intention. And don't forget to subscribe. Let Stoic philosophy remind you every day that to master your emotions is to master yourself. Number 3. Speak less than you think. There's a quiet, but dangerous habit many of us fall into, saying whatever comes to mind. We often justify it by calling it honesty. I'm just being real. I don't bottle things up. But the truth is, blurting out every unfiltered thought isn't authenticity. It's a lack of discipline. People of depth don't think less. They think more before they speak. And more importantly, they say less. Just enough. No more. Think back to your last catch-up with friends. Maybe someone began to open up. They said they were considering leaving their job. But before they could finish, someone jumped in. To be honest, that's a terrible move right now. A few more just being real comments followed. What began as a moment of vulnerability quickly turned into critique. The energy shifted. The person went quiet, nodded, changed the subject. And maybe, just maybe, they'll never open up in that group again. A valid point. Spoken too fast, at the wrong moment, to the wrong person. Is as damaging as saying something completely false. The Stoics didn't stay silent because they had nothing to offer. They stayed silent because they knew something essential. Every word has a cost. It might cost you your peace, your privacy, your connection with someone, or your reputation. The more you grow, the less you feel the need to speak, not because you have nothing inside, but because you've grown tired of cleaning up after thoughtless words. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Wisdom isn't always about proving you're right. Sometimes it's about having the courage to be misunderstood and still remain calm and grounded. Let me share a story. Just a moment of your time. Because within it lies a lesson we'll all face sooner or later. Thomas was sharp, intelligent, fast-thinking. He worked in finance and had a reputation for cutting through complexity like a knife. During one internal meeting, his boss proposed a new strategy, rushed, unpolished, clearly flawed. Thomas, irritated, jumped in. His words were precise but piercing. He laid out every flaw, every gap, and every risk right there in front of everyone. He wasn't wrong, but he was too fast, too blunt. His boss didn't say much at the time, just listened. But a few weeks later, Thomas was quietly removed from a major project. Confused, he sought answers. The feedback was clear. Leadership felt he didn't fit the culture. He hadn't failed because he lacked skill. He didn't lose because his point wasn't valid. He lost because he was right at the wrong time. After that, Thomas changed. He began writing down his ideas before meetings. reviewing them 10 minutes later, asking himself a simple but powerful question. Am I saying this to contribute or to prove I'm smart? If the answer was the second, he kept quiet. And over time, something remarkable began to happen. Within just a few months, something subtle yet powerful shifted. People began to listen, really listen whenever he spoke. His silence no longer signaled hesitation. Instead, it signaled depth, presence, and discernment. His words carried weight, not because he said more, but because he chose to say less and to say it well. You can start in the same way. It's surprisingly simple. When a thought arises, especially one that feels urgent or clever, don't rush to voice it. Instead, pause. Just imagine that every single word you say costs money. Would you still spend them so carelessly? Probably not. You'd speak with greater intention and deeper meaning. Give yourself a buffer, a short moment, just 3 seconds between your thoughts and your words. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, this moment, this thought, this person, is it necessary? That small question, when asked with honesty, has the power to transform the direction of a conversation. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you gave away too much? Like you pressured yourself just by revealing it all? Every time you share an idea, a goal, or a feeling, you place yourself in a position to defend, explain, or prove it. But when you choose to hold even a small part back, just a little, you gain something most people miss: freedom. Freedom to change, to adapt, even to let go, without guilt or shame. Not everyone needs to know what you're thinking. And you don't have to speak in order to prove you're alive or worthy. The right silence isn't awkward, it's invisible armor. It protects you from being misunderstood, from being emotionally hijacked, and from walking into unnecessary battles that drain your energy and peace. Are you speaking to truly be heard? Or are you speaking because you fear being forgotten? Choose your words. Choose your moment. Choose your audience. That's not just good communication, it's survival in a world that rewards noise but remembers impact. And before you rush to share your next big idea with the world, remember this: ideas are like seeds. If you speak them too soon, before they take root, the wind might carry them away. They vanish before they've had a chance to grow, to mature, to become real. Why is silence often the ultimate weapon in protecting what matters most to you? Why are the Stoics so rational, so reflective, so cautious about revealing their personal plans? The answer might just change the way you place your trust and your words into the world. Number 4. Guard your plans. There's something strange, even paradoxical, about modern life. The more people talk about their goals, the less likely they are to actually achieve them. You see it all the time. Someone posts their big ambition on social media. I'm launching this. I'm learning that. This is the year everything changes. It feels bold, inspiring, motivating. But then, a few months pass and everything fades like an old post no one remembers. What happened? Because unchecked talk is the most dangerous sedative for action. It creates the illusion of movement, of momentum. It tricks the brain into thinking progress is being made, when in reality, nothing has changed. The feet are still planted, the work is still waiting, but the words have fooled us. Picture this. One morning, at a local cafe, you overhear someone passionately sharing their startup vision. I'm going to open this unique coffee shop. Artsy vibes, books, community-driven brand. It's going to be unlike anything else. The idea sounds heartfelt, creative, full of promise. But 6 months later, you return to the same cafe. Still no new coffee shop. The same person sits at the same table, sipping the same drink. telling a different story that sounds exactly like the last one. It's not that they're lazy, or that the idea wasn't good, insincere. They've just fallen into a subtle mental trap, the illusion of progress. It's more common than we think. Our brains struggle to tell the difference between talking about doing something and actually doing it. When you share your plans, you receive instant feedback, admiration, encouragement, supportive nods, even applause. It feels good. It feels like momentum. It feels like you've already made it halfway, when in truth, you haven't even taken the first real step. Marcus Aurelius didn't go around bragging about living simply. He just lived simply. He didn't lecture people on discipline, he embodied it in silence. And that's what made him powerful. That's what made him different. Think about it. If you were a tree, would you rather use your precious energy to grow real, lasting leaves, or would you just shake your branches loudly, hoping others think you're growing? Growth doesn't always make noise. In fact, it usually doesn't. It's time you heard a story you won't forget, not because it's about a famous figure or mythical legend, but because it's about someone a lot like you. Jake, 34, was a software developer. Talented, ambitious, but deeply unhappy in his corporate job. For years he talked about quitting, about building his own app. He wasn't short on ideas. He had impressive presentations, sleek diagrams, and a roadmap that looked bulletproof. Friends were amazed. The plan was clear, but months went by. Then more months. And not a single line of code was ever written. One day, a close friend looked him in the eye and said, "Jake, you're addicted to talking about success, not building it." That moment landed hard because it was true. The next day, Jake wiped the slate clean. He deleted all his posts, stopped updating anyone, and sat down in front of a blank screen. One deep breath, and he wrote his first line of code. Then came the silence. 3 months of complete focus. 6 months of no social updates. And then his app quietly went live on the App Store. No announcement, no countdown, no fanfare. Just action. Just results. Jake's story isn't just about coding, it's about clarity. And it forces us to ask ourselves the hard question: are we actually doing the work? Or just talking about it so we feel like we are? If you see yourself in Jake's story, don't feel shame. That's not failure, that's awakening. That moment of realization is powerful. It's the beginning of a real shift. A turning point that reminds us that keeping our plans quiet is how we protect the energy to make them real. Look at Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso. He didn't make grand speeches about modest living. He lived modestly. He sold the government's luxury cars, cut his own salary in half, and grew vegetables in the presidential garden. His message wasn't loud, but it was unforgettable. Because when you stop performing, people finally start noticing. When you stop announcing, your results begin to speak for themselves. Silence is more than the absence of words. It is a form of strength, a declaration of intent without noise. To truly live this principle, try this simple challenge. Stop sharing your plans for 30 days. No posts, no just so you know updates, no humble brags disguised as motivation. Every time you feel the urge to share, pause. Instead of speaking, act. Write down one small, tangible step. Do it not because you don't deserve applause, but because you deserve something far more lasting: progress. Pause here. If you've made it this far, you've already come halfway. And that means something important. You're not just interested. In Stoic philosophy, you're ready to live it. The path to mastering your words and your focus is bold. It demands awareness, persistence, and a willingness to walk away from performative noise. But the chapters ahead aren't just abstract theories. They offer real strategies, practical, not preachy, designed to turn Stoic thought into a resilient, modern way of life. Walk the whole path. And if you found something valuable here, a quiet like is enough. That small gesture ripples far, just like the Stoic spirit itself, deep, silent, and full of strength. Number 5. Choose your confidence. There's a kind of spiritual suicide that many people commit daily without even realizing it. Talking too much and to the wrong people. A hole, and every personal disclosure is another shovel of dirt, gradually piling up. Until one day, someone who isn't you uses what you said to bury you. It sounds heavy, doesn't it? A heavy truth we rarely like to admit. So let me ask you this. Of all the people you've ever confided in, how many have truly kept your secrets? Out of respect, and not simply because they never had the chance or need to use what you shared. Stoicism teaches us to control our words, but very few understand that this control goes beyond merely speaking less. It means choosing wisely the right people to speak to. You don't have to shut yourself off completely, but you do have to be selective. The longer you live, the clearer this becomes. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, your internal files. Have you ever found yourself sitting on a crowded bus or waiting in line, and suddenly you're sharing family struggles, relationship issues, or work stress with a complete stranger? There's a strange comfort in believing that because they don't know you, they won't judge. This sense of detachment makes us open up more easily. But here lies the danger. Precisely because they're not involved in your life, they have no loyalty to what you share. In a society fueled by information, naivete becomes one of the easiest things to exploit. I once knew a guy named Mark, a personal trainer just starting out. He confided in someone he considered a close friend, sharing marketing ideas, financial troubles, even unpaid debts. The person listened, nodded, offered encouragement, only to later open a gym right next door, deliberately targeting Mark's clientele. Casual, offhand remarks like, "I'm not sure I can keep this going another month," ended up scaring off potential investors, not because Mark lacked ability, but because he revealed his weak spots too early, to the wrong person. And this doesn't just happen to Mark. It happens at work when you vent to a coworker and suddenly notice your boss acting differently. It happens in families when a confession is twisted into a tool for manipulation. It happens online, where people pour out their hearts onto keyboards, believing that sharing will help, but feeling lighter isn't always the same as being wise. Being too open always carries a cost. So what should we do? Not go completely silent, but train ourselves to filter before we speak. Before you say anything, ask yourself, will sharing this make me stronger, or will it hand someone else power over me? If you're unsure, keep it inside. Remember, everything you say is stored somewhere in someone's memory, ready to be used in ways you might never expect. In conversations you won't be part of, or worse, in a plan that's quietly working against you, silence can be your strongest defense. Try following a simple but powerful rule, the 3-time appearance principle. This means someone should appear in your life at least 3 times through joy, pain, and silence, before you dare share anything beneath the surface. After all, everyone is kind and warm when things are going well. But the true test of trust is who stays quiet when there's nothing left to gain. That's the person worthy of your confidence. What a real-world example? Look at how CEOs fiercely guard new product secrets. It's not because they don't trust their teams. Rather, they know that leaks happen, and the worst leaks come from mouths with no long-term loyalty. Your life is also a work in progress, a prototype under constant development. Don't let someone judge your worth based on an unfinished draft. Silence can be your last line of defense against hidden attacks, and your true confidant won't need you to say much. They'll understand you clearly, even through your silence. The Bible wisely advises, "Do not cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you in pieces." This is not about doubting the value of what you have to offer, but understanding that not everyone is capable of honoring the precious things you share. So ask yourself honestly, who are you sharing your truth with? Are you confident they will protect it, or are they just waiting for the moment to use it against you? One day, you'll realize that the person who knows the most about you might not truly understand you at all, and conversely, the one who deeply understands you might not need to know every detail. That's when you grasp that silence isn't the absence of words, it's the presence of wisdom. But how much silence is enough? Where exactly is the line between quiet wisdom and distant coldness? The answer may surprise you. Number 6. Silence is power. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's an intentional choice, and that choice comes at a cost. It's neither glamorous nor easy, but it's incredibly powerful. Staying silent when you have every reason to speak up demands 10 times more courage than winning any argument. In today's world, where everyone wields a microphone through social media, podcasts, and live streams, who dares to stay quiet? If that person is you, perhaps you're not merely reacting to the chaos around you, you're owning your place within it. Have you ever been in a situation where someone said something false or hurtful about you, right in front of a crowd? Your gut twists, blood rushes to your head, and your mouth wants to fire back. Yet if you've ever held it in, just looked calmly, stayed silent, nodded, and walked away, you know that feeling. It doesn't feel good, but it hits differently. That moment speaks louder than any words. It says to the world, I don't need to prove anything. In that pause, you're not just controlling your words, you're controlling yourself. Marcus Aurelius, known for his quiet wisdom, didn't speak much. His meditations were written for himself. In one rarely quoted line, he said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Don't mimic, don't retaliate. Don't fall into the trap of reaction. You don't need to speak to strike back. You only need to avoid becoming the reflection of what you despise. Ever notice how some people say the smartest things, yet nothing they say sticks? Meanwhile, others quietly do their work, say nothing, and are remembered forever. Why? Because words are like sound waves, transient and fading. Actions, however, are like gravity, unseen but powerful, pulling everything toward them, regardless. There's a side of silence that most people avoid. The fear of being ... there. Single quotes as a side of silence that most people avoid. The fear of being misunderstood. We worry that if we stay quiet, others will mistake our silence for weakness or cluelessness. But here's the twist: silence creates a strange kind of power. It forces others to guess, to wonder what you're thinking, and in that uncertainty, you gain influence. Isn't it fascinating how what's left unsaid can weigh more heavily than words themselves? Sure, this all sounds inspiring in theory, but how do you truly live it in a world that constantly pushes your buttons and demands instant reactions? The answer lies in the small, everyday moments. When the person you love is upset and starts dragging up every past mistake, can you simply take their hand, stay silent, and listen without defending yourself or offering excuses? When a coworker suddenly throws shade in a meeting, can you just smile, look at your boss, and calmly deliver your point, no more, no less? There's a story about a guy named David who works in design, a field where creativity isn't always fairly rewarded. Once, a coworker stole his idea and pitched it to their boss as if it were their own. Everyone clapped and congratulated the imposter, but David stayed silent. No pushback, no public call out. A week later, when it came time to execute the project, the team turned to David for the details, because the core of the idea lived in his mind, not theirs. He owned the moment through quiet action, not loud words. From that day on, people saw him differently, not just as talented, but as grounded and unshakable. Silence, when used rightly, flips the script. People don't listen to you merely because you're speaking. They listen because they know when you do speak, it truly matters. Sometimes, silence is the medicine we need. When we stop voicing every negative feeling and instead sit with them quietly, those feelings begin to shrink and lose their power. This idea isn't new. Zen, Taoism, and Buddhism all embrace non-action as a deeply intentional act. You don't react, not because you're avoiding the issue, but because you're processing it at a much deeper level. So here's a challenge for you. Try a day of silence. No arguing. No proving your point. No vague story posts aimed at someone. Just observe. Track every moment you want to speak but don't. Then, at the end of the day, ask yourself, if I had said something, would it really have made things better? Maybe you're not the most eloquent speaker, and that's okay. You can still make your words count by saying less, speaking only when it truly matters. Don't let your voice become cheap because you gave it away too often. Silence is power, but only if you are strong enough to hold it. If you've ever held back from saying something and found that it made you stronger, drop a strength in silence to mark that moment, the moment you stopped reacting like you used to. Number 7. Let achievements speak. Most of us share a deeply human instinct, the desire to be recognized and appreciated by others. Often, the quickest and easiest way to satisfy that urge is to talk about what we plan to do, what we're currently working on, or what we hope to achieve. We assume that by speaking up, others will see us as serious, capable, and valuable individuals. But here's the surprising truth. The more we talk about something before it actually happens, the more likely we are to lose it, not because someone else sabotages us, but because speaking too early and too much slowly erodes our inner drive to act. The louder we assert ourselves with words, the easier it becomes to fall into the illusion that we've already made progress, when in reality, we haven't even taken the first step. Those who live by the Stoic mindset understand this well. Every word costs energy. Every time you share a plan, justify a decision, or try to prove your worth through speech, you are giving away something precious that should have been reserved for action. The wisest choose to act first and speak later, not because they have nothing to say, but because they know real credibility doesn't come from convincing others through words. It comes from letting results speak for themselves. In a world that never stops talking, the person who knows when to stay silent commands the most attention and respect. Think back to the last time you told someone you were going to learn a new language, start working out, write a book, or launch a project. What happened afterward? If you're like most people, the initial excitement probably faded quickly. By saying it out loud, you received a hit of that achievement feeling without actually doing the work. Your brain took the reward before paying the price, and then things stalled, not because you were weak or lazy, but because you unknowingly traded real action for the illusion of progress. Purposeful silence isn't avoidance or weakness. It's a smart strategy, like planting a seed in fertile soil. You don't dig it up every day to check its growth. You let it grow quietly, steadily, and strongly. People are the same. The most meaningful things in life need protection from rushed judgment and impatient eyes. When you keep your plans to yourself, you create a safe, sacred space for them to grow, free from outside pressure or distortion. Staying silent is also a powerful way to cultivate inner discipline. Not everyone can do it. It's easy to show you're trying, but much harder to move forward quietly without needing constant validation or approval. Yet, that's exactly what sets you apart. Silence demands that you truly believe in your own process, that you don't need to be seen, understood, or applauded. You just need to know exactly what you're doing and keep doing it consistently. And when the results come, you won't need to say a word. They will speak for you. That's more than recognition, it's trust. Not because you promised, but because you delivered. No hype, no spotlight. Just truth with weight and substance. The kind of impact that makes people pause, take notice, and see you in a whole new light. Not because you were trying to be seen, but because you made it impossible not to be. It's a quiet power that commands respect without a single boast or loud claim. So next time you feel tempted to share a plan, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what would happen if I kept this to myself? Am I truly ready to let the result be the only thing that speaks on my behalf? If your answer is yes, then you're already on the right path, because the one who controls their words is the one who is genuinely in control, and that is precisely where all real value begins. We've just explored 7 Stoic-inspired lessons to master your words, ranging from the art of listening more attentively, managing your emotions skillfully, to recognizing the profound moments when silence speaks louder than promises ever could. Each of these lessons isn't merely a philosophical concept. They are practical tools designed to help you live with greater clarity, resilience, and genuine impact through quiet strength. Because the more we grow, the less we feel the need to speak. Instead, our actions naturally begin to speak for us. Words have immense power. They can either build or destroy. But when you learn to control them, you're not just mastering speech, you're mastering yourself. And that is the true power Stoicism offers: inner freedom, calm amid chaos, and an unshakable focus on the path you have chosen for yourself. Isn't that what many of us quietly seek in a world filled with noise and distraction? If this message sparked something within you, something fresh, something you hadn't considered before, then do give it a like. It might just do the same for someone else. Feel free to drop a comment with your thoughts so we can grow together in this journey. Share this with a friend, a loved one, or anyone who could use a little more calm and clarity right now. And don't forget to subscribe, because your journey to self-mastery is only just beginning. And what's coming next will keep you strong and steady. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you soon.